Hello and welcome to the A&P. It is Patrick McCallum and Alex Johansson. Logical discussions about the state of the world. Oh my goodness.
Nice.
So we got your friend, the Unbroken Man. Well, I don't know if he's your friend, but he definitely has a video out there. And we'll definitely be posting this. So let us...
Very interesting channel I came across there recently enough. Very interesting videos.
Wow. Well, let's see what the Unbroken Man has to say. And if there's questions, I'll pause and get the Irish side of things. Here we go.
No bother at all.
How's it going, guys? Welcome to another video. And it's a freezing cold evening here. It's getting kind of late, but it's a nice time for a walk in the woodlands here. And yeah, chat about this absolute shit for brains of a nutcase. Actually, you know what? That name is too nice, because I'm talking about this scumbag, this another devil's, I think Devil's Little Helper is the best name to describe these guys, because it's a sort of an evil shit. When you describe someone like this as a shit for brains is a name that I call somebody that just annoys me. Listen, shit for brains, don't do that again. But Devil's Little Helper, this another imported absolute head that shouldn't be in the country, that just runs around and tries slashing people's throats by the sounds of it. Not just stabbing, just going for their necks with the blade. I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, the people of Stony Batter, which is sort of west Dublin City, kind of north of the river as you approach Phoenix Park. I'm not that familiar with it. Yeah, this is the sort of the norm now for us, you know, these incidents cropping up everywhere. Oh, but sure, the Irish do it as well. The Irish attack people with knives. Sure, we're as bad.
What's that?
So this is as I remember, we covered this in a previous episode. This is about the knife attack I was showing you.
Right. From the RT publication that we saw.
Yeah, this is as you can see, a really old part of Dublin. It's a beautiful part of Dublin, actually. This is the Dublin Road portion but it looks very similar to that area. This is not the area, but this is very similar looking.
Okay, so this is that's not Stony Batter. It's Dublin Road as you approach Galway. Okay.
Yes, yeah, but very similar looking in a lot of ways.
All right, here we go.
But remember what we covered in a previous episode?
Yes.
That's the knife attack he's referring to.
Right. Okay. And you actually discussed the TDs and the Taoiseach and all that stuff. That's
yes. Remember I was showing you this Stony Batter knife attack incident. I'll put the links to the news story down below for people.
Got it. All right.
This is what he's on about. All
right.
But what will happen when we're only 25% of the population? Because we're still in the majority. What will happen when there's a lot less of us? You know, because I do firmly believe, and I've said it before, that immigrants are hugely represented in crime. It's obvious. It's not a far-right conspiracy theory. It's pure logic. Add salt to your food becomes more salty, doesn't it? Bring people in from dangerous countries, your country becomes more dangerous. Okay, so in the last couple of minutes there now, the rain has come, unfortunately. So I'm going to have to duck for cover here in the woods. But let me warn you that the quality of this DJI Osmo camera isn't great in the dark, but the audio should be okay, so just bear with me here. But anyway, I was talking about Brazil there. You know, Brazil is another country of which we're getting many migrants. I'm not sure what percentage of Ireland is Brazilian now. Maybe it's about 1.5%, maybe 2%. It's quite a few Brazilians here. And there's all sorts amongst them, like any country. And yeah, okay, this is the bit where I say they're mostly decent people. But it's also a country that's riddled with crime. And to think that we're not importing a criminal element from Brazil is yet again.
You know, the UK is having the same issue with Albanians being absolutely super overrepresented in their prisons. Have you noticed any issues with Brazilians in your area there in Ireland, or is this just a general statement across all of Ireland?
It's a general statement all across the country at the moment. we're having a lot of crime issues. It's gone past the point of being able to say it's not happening. Before there was always a blind eye turned to it, but now it's, as he said there, you can't hide it. The figures speak for themselves. We're having a massive problem.
Pretty hard to take
as he said, the more the RT and even the state broadcasters can't cover up those facts anymore. Or as you call it in America, the legacy media can't.
You can't.
It's not happening anymore.
Can't unsalt the food. All right, here we go.
No.
A hugely naive train of thought to have. So the guy I saw in a really rough, low resolution screen grab type zoomed in pic on a mobile phone, he looked like he was African. So there's an African connection with Brazil. He's Brazilian, Afro-Brazilian or whatever. Does that matter? So when you hear of multiple people getting stabbed in a city and it makes the news, firstly, let's be honest, we all think the same thing. We really do. We think, okay, this is another Muslim lunatic, follower of the religion of peace, trying to do a jihadi style attack or something in the name of his God. Kill the infidel. So this is what we're programmed to think now here in Ireland. Straight away you go, okay, Islamic attack. That's what I thought. But what happens in the event of an Islamic style jihadi attack on the public, and thank God this wasn't on children, I'll get to that in a minute. So there's always the mention of mental illness, or as I was corrected in my last video, oh, don't say mental illness, mental health. Mental health. Saying mental illness is negative.
Well, if you violate the mores of society, right? I don't know that that's mental health or mental illness, but there's an acceptable level of behavior, and stabbing people in the throat falls far outside what is acceptable by social mores in all of the G7 countries, right? I'm not going to grab a zombie knife and run around and start stabbing people, right? Because I'll be incarcerated. But the reason I don't do it is because it's wrong. And if you don't know the difference between right and wrong, then you have a problem. You can call it mental health, you can call it mental illness, you can call it what you want. It's a failure to follow the mores of society.
Yeah, you can dress up whatever way you want. It's still, you say, a mental deficiency in some way.
Right, you put whatever word, and I've noticed that we do that with lots and lots of words. George Carlin did a bit where he talked about it, where in World War I it was shell shock, and now we've gotten to post-traumatic stress disorder. Lots and lots of extra syllables to say war affected you real bad. You were shell shocked, right? So softening the language doesn't soften the violation of social mores.
No, it doesn't. No, and that's the problem. They're always trying to soften down the language. They make it more palatable for the public.
But that feels like you're getting lied to. And the more of a word salad you put into it, it just makes modern reporting look horrible. It's why the legacy media's got such issues. I was watching some videos the other day, and it was showing all of these different newscasting organizations in the United States. And their script across the board was exactly the same on a couple hundred television broadcasts of the news. Here in XYZ city, we value blah, blah, blah. And this is the other thing. And then they can play all of the videos at the same time, and they sound the same. Because the words are the same. Yeah, we'll do that one in a few weeks here, and I'll show you. It's crazy.
Actually, that sounds very that sounds very interesting.
It's scary.
Wow.
Right. That means there's
it is scary.
Yeah, it means there's an overarching hand that is putting their
guiding the narrative.
Yeah, they're guiding the narrative. Like, this is what you will say. This is how you will say it. Beyond that, it's you will read this scripted thing exactly this way.
Yeah.
Right. And eventually people are going to notice.
That's why. Yeah, that's why I think people have lost faith in a lot of the legacy media. Is they're all singing off the same hymn sheet, every single one.
But the other thing is that you have a 24-hour news cycle that's trying to get these little sound bites out, right? 3 to 12 to 15 seconds, and they think it proves something. When you sit down and have a discussion with someone, you get to know them. You get a feel for what they're about. And maybe their worldview isn't exactly in line with yours, but not everybody's worldview is going to be in line with yours. It's a
It's the
good
nature of the
thing.
world. Not being
Right.
smart. Yeah,
That's a good
and
thing.
it is a good thing.
Right.
Yeah.
You and I disagree on things. It doesn't mean I respect you any less. It means that I'm going to dig in and figure out why does I believe what I believe, and I'll present that to you. And you can say, well, with the same set of facts, this is what I feel is the way that it is. Right. And that's
Yes,
how
exactly. It's called common discussion.
right. Well, it's the conversational bargain. Right. I'm going to give you a
Yes.
concept. You're going to come back at me with whatever you come back at me with. I'll manipulate that concept and throw it back to you. I'm not going to dead fish you in the middle of a discussion and be like, well, I just don't think you're right. You know, I'm not a child. I can accept
Yeah.
that another adult person doesn't believe or perceive the way that I do. But that
Yes.
also leads me to there's the truth versus your truth and my truth. There's a thing that is true, right? The sky is blue and grass is green because we've decided that those symbols mean a thing and those things don't lose their meaning, right? From person to person to person, right? Here's a good one. What color is a fire truck?
Red. I think we can all appreciate it's red.
Right. Except for me, when I grew up in an area in a state where the fire trucks were green. So when someone said fire engine red, I'm like, what are you talking about? Fire trucks are green because that's what I grew up with. Right. And then you're
That's
like,
true.
no, Alex. I'm like, what do you mean, Patrick? And you're like, here's
Yeah.
a bunch of pictures of red fire engines. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, so that is the predominant color. I just happen to grow up in a place where the fire engines were green.
Yeah.
Right. Doesn't mean I'm
But
stupid.
you're all, but no, but you're, as they say, everyone has a different point of view if they look at the same thing. It depends, as you said, it depends on where you grew up. Even the language is different from different countries.
Right.
Even though we speak English, we translate our words slightly differently.
Yep. All right, let's get back to this. That's a good point.
Oh.
Mental health. So we get told then that, oh, they were, suffering from mental health issues. So there's a certain mental health issue. This mental condition that I just can't believe I can't think of because it's a very well-known condition. It's kind of rampant among certain groups. Not rampant, but it's more likely. And we've seen it in Dublin several times. I think even in Galway here a few times, where you get an absolute nutcase that strips down bare naked and starts acting aggressively and shouting around the streets, running around the streets, parading around naked or whatever. And this is something that, we didn't really have before. As mad as us Irish are, and God knows there's plenty of mad ones amongst us, you're just not used to seeing a psycho going around naked in the middle of a busy street. So it's something we've kind of imported, and it's like everything. It's like the knife attacks themselves. It's something that we're kind of having to get used to living with now here in Éire. So we're importing crime at the end of the day. That's what we're doing. So our government don't seem to be, I don't know what it is. They have this.
Go ahead.
Yes, he makes a lot of good points there. He makes a very, very good point. We're definitely not used to that kind of behavior in Ireland. We've always had, drinking culture or whatever else, but we're not used to this level of madness, is the only word I could describe it.
Well, the other side of that coin is there's no longer shame associated with performing outside of what is socially acceptable. Right? If I say the thing you did is shameful, then they refer back to, well, it's my truth. Well, your truth doesn't mean you get to do something that's in violation of other people. Right? You don't get a pass for that at all. Right? Put your damn clothes back on and act right. Right? Like, acting
as you said,
right
it might be socially acceptable from where they come from. But it's not.
That activity, there isn't a place that I can think of in any G7 country or anywhere where.
Go
ahead.
a lot of these people do not come from a G7 country. Let's call a spade a spade. A lot of them come from the third world
Well,
outside the
and
G7.
I have been to some of these places, and they don't do it there. And in fact, the shame culture in those places is even more tightly woven than it is in G7 countries. The G7 countries are just splitting apart at the seams. We want to accept everybody's truth as their truth, and it's okay for them to just be any kind of way that they want to be. That's not how we advance society in any kind of positive way. We don't let Johnny run around naked in the 3rd grade and say that's cool, right? We shouldn't accept someone who doesn't.
Point, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
So if someone chooses
proper background checks and interviews, anyway, to stop all this before it gets onto our streets as well. Obviously, if a person has this level of mental illness that they're acting like this in public, a quick interview at the airport where they come in would actually catch that pretty quick. Even, you know what I mean?
Well, you would
border
think.
controls would be wonderful. Yeah, border control would catch that pretty quick. You know, if a fella comes off a plane and he's talking to himself, you know, that's a good sign that he might have a couple of, you know, screws loose, as they say long ago.
I think the problem with that is you can't say that they are or are not actually an asylum seeker. Right?
Yes, that's...
So the problem is you can't say you can't seek asylum because mental health, right? If they have a legitimate concern, right, and the concern might be because of their mental health, if they don't leave, the shame quotient in their country won't accept their activities and actions, right? But it still shouldn't be on Ireland to house them. It shouldn't.
No, it shouldn't be on us to deal with it. No, it shouldn't.
It's funny. He had to put
Ireland's not the first port of call for any let's face it.
Well, yeah,
under asylum, no.
We had that thing in the United States with Mexico where they had to apply in Mexico for asylum in the United States. Right? So, all right.
Yes.
And then I noticed he put up the word schizophrenia on the screen as an edit later. So I saw that.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
This sort of liberal gene, this missing DNA responsible for self-preservation. I don't know what's wrong with them. Is there no one of them that can say, right, Jesus Christ above, can we just stop this? So no, I firmly believe that not only should we be completely shutting down the borders and stopping these centres, these IPAS centres, and I know this guy wasn't registered as a asylum seeker, refugee, or the correct term would be economic migrant, really, when you think about it. So he wasn't in on that, off that bat. He was homeless, he was up to no good. There was a record of him doing something in 2023. You know, what are these guys doing here? The crazies, the lunatics that were just for some reason letting into Ireland.
So do you know what homeless actually, well, in the United States, do you know what being homeless or being a vagrant is?
In the United States? Well, I know what it means in Ireland, but what is it over the United States?
Well, the kind of crime that it would be identified as.
Right, okay.
So it's a quality of life crime. Right, you can't afford to be somewhere, so you just live on the street. So it's a quality of life crime. You're committing a crime because you don't have the economic ability to support yourself, right?
All right, so it's classed as a crime. Okay.
Well, vagrancy, yeah. Like you can't just walk around downtown and pitch a tent, right? Which is what a lot of the sanctuary cities in the United States have allowed them to do, because they said it was an Eighth Amendment violation. And I don't want to get into a whole long thing, but the federal court sent down a judgment that said it is not an Eighth Amendment violation for a city government to get rid of all of the tents and say you can't just aimlessly wander around the streets, because where are they going to urinate and defecate? On the street, right? So it causes issues with businesses.
I see what you mean.
Right? So,
yeah.
And a lot of the big function, like even per John Locke and Thomas Hobbes, but more John Locke, was that the function of government is to protect businesses, right? To make sure that they can, in a free market society, perform their function, right? And then when you have a lot of quality of life crime, those businesses who have their storefronts in those places cannot do business, right? They just can't. They had problems with that in Los Angeles, New York. One of the worst ones I've actually seen was in Sacramento, California, right? Because the homeless were,
okay.
yeah, the homeless would literally sleep in the alcoves in the front of these businesses, and the businesses functionally could no longer make money because there were people urinating and defecating in the alcove, on the stoop, or on the way in, and nobody wants to walk into a business that smells like that. It's off-putting, right?
Yeah.
But a part of that
We have
issue,
the same. We're having the same problem as well.
right? But part of the
Yeah,
issue with that
in
is
Dublin especially. Yeah.
right, there's no shame. There's no shame on the people who are doing that. They have no shame for the thing they're doing because there's a cultural breakdown, and with a cultural breakdown
Yes.
comes homelessness. But the problem is it's not even so. Homeless is actually functionally the wrong term, right? So when you have homeless encampments, right, those aren't homeless encampments. Those are open air drug markets, right? Michael Schellenberger talks about that in San Francisco,
Yeah.
and some of his other works.
Right.
It's just
Okay.
there's no shame, so you do whatever you want to do because society has told you you can just do whatever you want to do. It's all okay, except it's not. It's just not because it's a cultural breakdown. Anyway, we'll get back into it.
You see, the Irish liberal, the thought of a closed border country just doesn't go against them. They want the world to come into Ireland. It's in their nature. They don't have the genes, the DNA required for self-preservation. Okay, down onto the beach. Get a little bit of shelter here. So, as I was saying there, this is kind of the Ireland now that we're sort of having to deal with. A slightly more, where you go out in public now and the thought of meeting a crazy is sort of on your mind a little bit more than it would have been years ago. There was always the odd nutcase around, but now it's kind of like, right, there might be a nutcase with a knife. It's a slightly more dark society. And I'm a fairly big guy, right? If the shit goes down, even though I'm pushing on in years, I'll be that bit better at subduing somebody than the average guy. I'm not a scrapper by nature, but I'm okay. Physically fairly strong and stuff. Thank God. Something I'm appreciative of. So I can kind of look after myself. But there's a lot of people in Ireland now that can't, like that aren't as, there's a lot of lads now, men and stuff I see around, and they're kind of physically not as, they wouldn't be that strong. There's women then as well. And you might get these women that, think they're tough mamas and they'll be doing their workouts and on the punch bag and all that. Warrior mums. But realistically, women are at a huge disadvantage physically when it comes to, being out in society and there being a lunatic hanging around. I sometimes feel, as society is changing now, it's getting a bit more dangerous. I'm kind of glad that I'm a big dude, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I actually
guys
pause it there. I can actually see what he's saying about that. Even myself walking in cities and even moving around, there's that kind of level of darkness which was never really there. Even up to a couple of years ago, there was never that level of fear walking around the city centres. Now there is. Like you even if there's a group of you get that uneasy feeling. There's a lot of crazy, as he says, there's a lot of crazies around, a lot of lunatics wandering around the place, and no matter how much you dress it up, a lot of these people are not from Ireland. We like, you can, as he says, you can dress it up and put out whatever you say, but when you look at it and you see it with your own two eyes, that a lot of these crazies wandering around the place are not Irish. And we just so scared of Ireland of saying this is not acceptable because we'd be called all right or racist, as he says, or if we don't use the proper PC terms. But when do we say enough is enough?
Well, James Lindsay actually talked
cities.
about that on the New Discourses podcast, where functionally, the woke function is to call something racist until you control it, right? Because if it's racist, then you get to regulate it because it is an, in quotes, bad thing, right?
Yes.
And then when you have, again, no shame in your society, then all actions become permissible. Once all actions become permissible, those who do not have a monopoly on use of force will be abused. That is
Yes.
literally how that
Yes.
goes.
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
am not a young lad, but I have lots of training.
Mhm.
But I couldn't take 5 guys that were attacking me. If
No.
there's 5 fellas, even if they're of average height and proportion, 5 fellas would probably do me dirty, right?
Yes.
But
That would go with any person.
well, if you consider the physical differences, right? So one woman isn't going to be able to fight back against functionally one man of similar proportion. Even a man who is smaller than a woman is generally more likely to win that fight and then take a thing from her she does not want to give, right? Be it a physical
Yeah.
interaction she doesn't
Yeah.
want, or her purse or her phone or whatever, right? Like the reality of the situation is someone who has even a bit of training in the same weight class functionally as the person they're attacking, if that person isn't very well trained, then they're going to have a problem. Again, something will be taken from them they don't want to have taken. So
Yeah, exactly. He does make a very good point there. That
right, it makes smaller
when
males
when
and women victims.
when do we draw a line and say, look, this is not acceptable in our society. We do not want these people anymore.
The problem is you've
When do
already
we start?
permitted it. You've already permitted it.
Yes.
And then you've
Yeah.
allowed them, once they
This-
get there, to perform impermissible actions against those who are ultimately victims, right? Because of
Yes.
poor policies.
Yes. Yeah.
Right, here we go.
It's a shame. It's a shame to see how downhill a lot of my country has gone over the years.
I have a lot of Irish heritage. I got a lot invested in that, but I'm not happy with it at all. Here we go.
No.
Fucking knives, you know. When you hear a knife crime in Ireland, you know, normally it's usually, you know, amongst gangs, you know, someone got knifed or whatever. It's usually some sort of, and you know, I hate to say it, but it's usually travellers. You know, you get the travellers with their machetes, but it's kind of amongst
Yes.
themselves. You know, you don't often hear of an Irish fella going out on a rampage with a knife. But some other communities, just knives are a little bit more of their thing. I mean, let's be perfectly honest. You're not a racist to admit it, but it just is. They're just more into knives and bringing knives around with them. And we've welcomed said people in to Ireland. That's the sort of thing, that's the way we're treating it now. Oh, give everyone a chance. They could be just like you. They need an opportunity. They've been denied opportunities. So it's up to us to treat them fairly and accommodate for them.
With a vetting
That's the
process.
speech.
Yeah, with a vetting process that keeps the indigenous people, the Irish, safe, right?
Yes.
That would be the
Proper
understanding.
vetting process.
Proper
Yeah,
vetting.
the proper vetting process. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why not? I
And
know
you
it's
were telling me
unpopular to say
you
in
have to
Ireland.
land somewhere else before you get to Ireland. Like you don't just fly to
Yeah.
Ireland. So wherever they
Yeah,
land
there's no-
before, they should apply for visas and protocols and all those things before they get to Ireland.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, exactly. They don't suddenly just beam out of outer space and land in Ireland. We're an island. It's not. You know, you have to come in somewhere in a point of entry, either by
Right.
boat or by plane. You know, or and it cannot be that hard in this modern day and age. It's just to set up, especially in the Midlands, just set up, I would say, conversation camp where you get vetted, you come in, you land, you get shipped over here, you get properly vetted, so on. And I cannot understand why we cannot do that. It's unbelievable that we're suddenly, you land to say in Dublin Airport, I'm going to use this as an example.
But well, it's a
You go
human
to
rights
IPAC.
violation. They would cite that as a human rights violation
Oh, yeah.
because you're
Guaranteed.
stopping their ability to get the opportunity to be Irish. That's
Exactly.
not what it is.
That's number one. Yeah, exactly. That's the speech we heard. Oh, that's violating their human rights. But what they do instead is you fly into Dublin, you're sent to IPAS, then you're sent to an accommodation center in whatever community, and there's no vetting process. There's no proper interview as such. So you have all these unvetted males, for the most part, landed
Unemployed,
in vulnerable,
walking around.
unemployed, landed yeah, with nothing better to do in a small local community with a very limited police force. You know, you're only asking for trouble to happen. Let's face it.
Yeah. It is not well
As I
regulated.
said, oh no, not regulated at all in Ireland properly. Plus, there's a lot of people are making a lot of money out of this as well.
So
The
sad.
IPAS system, especially the landlords.
Yeah, they get a ton of money. They're not going to move in Irish people because the Irish person's going to spend X amount of euros, and then the government's going to way overpay for migrants to live in a space. It just makes transactional sense.
Like, we cannot afford €100 per day per person in rent.
Right.
That's how much they make off these migrants in these accommodation centers.
Well, and they do another thing where they pay for the entire hostel in tavern, whatever. They pay for all of the rooms. So they not only make $100 a day off people, they make $100 a day off of every room. If they have 10 rooms, they're making $1,000 a day. At the end of the month, that's $30,000 or 30,000 euros, whatever the unit of exchange is, right?
Yeah, 30,000 euros. You think about it, if you put 10 people into every room, that's 10 rooms, they're making €1,000 per day per room.
Right, but the thing is, they get the money if the rooms are empty or not, if they rent all of them out to ensure that they can put more, in quotes, asylum seekers in there. So, all right, here we go.
And then we get set upon. Yeah. Take a chance and walking around here. So this guy seemed to just attack the nearest unfortunate people who were just in the wrong place at the wrong time, unfortunately. Imagine if it was a group of kids that happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. A group of little children. Like that other devil's little helper from Algeria. Oh, he was 20 years in Ireland. Sure, he was an Irish citizen. He was as Irish as you were. As Irish as Darby O'Gill. Oh, would you feck off that shite?
You're going to have to tell me who Darby O'Gill is.
Darby O'Gill. And you know what? I'm going to link down below. Just right, Alex, write that down there somewhere, Alex. Just to remind me to put down a link to that movie. That's actually one of my favorite childhood movies. Was Darby O'Gill and the Little People is the name of the movie. But he is referring to an incident that did happen, a serious incident that actually did happen in Dublin. I'll send you the link, actually, Alex. It's about there was. Well, I'm going to really kind of boil down a small bit. There was a creche, or as you call it, preschool in America. Remember I was telling you that about?
Yes.
And this guy from that is stabbing small kids. One of the teachers was seriously injured. I'll actually link the story down below as well. Just write that down in a note there. It was then the headline came out that, and as I say, I'm going to really boil it down because I don't want to take away from the video, but he was in Ireland for 20 years. He's from Algeria. From mental health issues. You want to hear that quite a lot, by the way, the mental health issues. Well, obviously, you're going to suffer from mental health issues if you go around stabbing kids and teachers. But the headline at the time was, he wasn't a foreign citizen, he was an Irish citizen. They made that very clear. Even though he was from Algeria, he spent 20 years, he's Irish as you or me, as he says. But I don't know any Irish person they would go around stabbing kids. Okay, it's not in our culture, it's not in Western culture, it's
well, it's reprehensible. They represent our future. They represent our ability to carry on our name. They represent a lot of things. And they're all good things that they represent. And when you destroy innocence like that, you are a horrific individual.
But he took a couple of days, a few days, the rest of the media to release his name and where he was from. because of the power of social media and there was witnesses, it came out on social media before it came out in the news what he was and where he was from. That's what sparked the Dublin riots at the time. Was this incident? It was kind of like, you could say, the straw that broke the camel's back in a lot of ways.
Well, in the United States, you can tell if a perpetrator of a crime, or at least you could until recently, if the perpetrator of a crime was white, because they would immediately publish the story. But if it was an individual who was not white, then there would be a delay in putting the information out.
Exactly. We're having that now at the moment ourselves.
Yeah.
Over in this
If an
country.
Irishman did that, it would be live on the news right now, talking about how an Irishman did a thing. But if it's someone who is of, in quotes, a minority, then it's like they clamp down on the information, right? And I don't like state-controlled media even a little bit. It bothers me fundamentally. It's why I'm doing this, right? I want to.
Yeah, do you know what? That actually shocked a lot of people at the time, that it wasn't just our normal state media that was behind the name. It was all.
Well, nobody wants to be canceled for being a racist. You're not a racist when you say demographically individual X performed this crime. That's not racist. That is a statement of fact, right? I can't get it through my head. Why does you can't say this person did this thing, right? Albanians in the UK, people of Mexican descent in the United States, Brazilians or Algerians in Ireland. Why can't you say demographically the individual who committed the crime was this, right? It's like, how do you identify? How does the Gardaí going to identify someone that they're chasing if you're like, well, I don't know, they're just a human meat sack. They went that way. Can you describe them? Well, I don't want to be racist. I can't get the perpetrator of the crime who's violating the mores of society if you don't tell me what they look like.
Let me break out my dictionary to find the right words. It's, as you say, it goes back to the point of, in the United States and now in Ireland, that if it was a white guy, on straight away.
Immediately.
If it's not, there's
with live coverage.
Immediately.
On the ground.
Yes. But as they say, if it's somebody else, it's usually,
hello, this is Moira Fitzpatrick here in Dublin. We've got an Irishman committing a crime right now, and it's on the camera. Here you go.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Come on, Moira.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
That Algerian dude that like bricked last week, you're like, well, you know, there was some mental illness and there were some problems. Put it on
let's break out the
TV.
Break out the sad story time.
Well, no, it's a victim. It's a victimhood game. How many victimhood points do you have to allow you to perpetrate a horrific thing? Well, we will forgive you for it because you're downtrodden or you don't have the same opportunities and you're failing to assimilate and you want to do a thing that doesn't help our country grow as a country. It's just horrible.
Exactly.
Anyway, here we go.
Yeah.
It's not Irish. And one thing about that guy and that attack on the children, it's a good job that he wasn't better, that he wasn't more proficient, you know, because all it takes is one motherfucker with a knife to know what he's doing. And luckily these guys, these psychos who've done it so far, they haven't been overly productive. Guy in Sligo with the gays, maybe, decapitating 2 gay men, almost doing a third. He seemed to have a fairly productive evening, but yeah, the Algerian guy, he managed to leave a little child in hospital for a year. Still don't know what that child looks like or what her mother looks like, or I don't know what the school teacher looks like. I know what the Brazilian guy that came to the rescue looks like. He has plenty of photo shoots of him. How's he getting on with this $500,000 that we raised for him? And I remember at the time, you know, you can say what you want about immigrants and attacking people, terrorists, but it was an immigrant that came to the rescue at the end of the day. If he didn't come along, those children mightn't have made it, you know, this kind of thing. So now we have a Brazilian that's tried to murder 4 people in Stony Batter. So does that cancel out the good work the Brazilian guy did up in Dublin in November 2023, Parnell Square? Are we back to level playing ground there? I'm kind of getting sick of it, lads. I really am. I'm kind of getting sick of it. We have no fucking security at all in this country. And it didn't have to be like this. We could have a safe country. You see, Ireland is trying to lead by example. The government had this idea that will be this lovely little sort of highly functioning, multicultural, successful, prosperous, densely populated island up in the North Atlantic. But we didn't have to do it that way. You know, we could have had a different look, a different approach. Maybe we don't need to be expanding the population with all sorts of people from massive nations, highly populated countries that have crazy numbers. So this is my point, that Ireland will inevitably just be this sort of representation of these huge countries that are nowhere near Ireland, really, on the map. These far-off lands that have crazy big populations. Ireland will be this kind of like palette, tasting palette of these countries. That's what it's going to be like.
How's there? Yeah.
How's it going, guys?
It's the failure of multiculturalism.
Yes.
So if people don't choose to assimilate into your country, then those independent ideas, because they're going to end up having to work directly against the will of the people who are there. They don't have a choice, right? Because they have their own needs, wants, and desires. And if they can legislate it somehow through your council or even up to the Taoiseach with your houses, they'll do it. And then if you have weak liberals who are like, well, they need a chance too. At the destruction of your country is not the price you pay. That is not the price you pay. It is unacceptable.
And the funny thing is he makes a lot of good points there. Is the Irish experiment, as I call it, hasn't really worked out too well for us Irish.
What I really like about the Unbroken Man, what I really like about this guy is he is unpolished. He is saying here is bad things, and I, as an Irishman from Galway, have this opinion, and here's why I have it, and it's reasonable. The things he's saying aren't unreasonable, but I mean, he's not discussing, well, the multicultural issue is because of a shame-based, I mean, okay, I got a bit of a brain, I get it. But he's speaking in terms that everyone can understand.
Yes,
right?
He breaks it down Barney style, as they
say. And we elaborate on it a little bit. You as an educated Irishman, and me as I was educated in the United States, so I don't know how educated that makes me in general. But I do got a couple eyes on me, and I got a bit of a brain. Functionally, the multicultural experiment in Ireland isn't working. And it's causing discontent across the board. And you can't legislate a victory. You actually have to do work to solve the problem. Right?
And that's the problem. I think that's the problem with us, for our politicians, is they do not want to be labeled X.
Remember our first
bending over backwards.
Right. Our first episode, our first thing we covered was an RTE thing about the stabbing, right? We covered that.
Yes.
And there was a TD who was like, well, I handed it off to somebody else. And I'm just going to expect results. You are part of the council. You're part of the government. You are an integral part of representing.
Go
ahead.
He's elected member of TheA&P. And he said, I sent a letter and such to the Minister of Justice. As a member of TheA&P,
I don't want a strongly worded fucking letter. I want you to fucking solve problems. I want you to work for the Irish people to ensure the safety of your people and of your culture and of your entire fucking island. Oh my God, you weak bitch. How the fuck can you call yourself a man, but you hand some shit off to somebody else? Go to the fucking workshop and fix the fucking thing. Oh.
Exactly. Why doesn't he? That's what I explained to you at the time, is he's a member of the Dáil. He could sit outside the Minister of Justice's office and demand a meeting and say, Why isn't there more Gardaí in such and such an area?
Right.
What
I
are we doing about the
represent these
homeless in this
people, and
area?
I want to represent them
Yes.
well. And here's the
Yes.
problem I have. Somebody stabbed
Yes.
people in my district. And we need to
Yes.
ensure the safety of the people in the district. And just having 2 more Gardaí run around in their car a couple times a night isn't going to do it. That's not what's going
No.
to do it.
There
This
ha-
is a
There has
systemic
to be a
issue.
proper.
Right.
Yeah. Get onto the minister of social welfare. Get onto all these different ministers who are paid to look after this and say, I want a plan put in place for my area to deal with the homelessness, deal with crime, to deal with all these issues that have led to this. Like, these are elected individuals. You don't have to send a strongly worded email or a letter or make a silly statement. Sit outside the minister's office and demand a meeting. That's all they have to do. But
It doesn't seem like a difficult thing to do. It just doesn't.
No. We, as I say, we don't have we have 174 members of TheA&P. You know,
Right.
It's not a really big body. You know, you can arrange a meeting.
In my lifetime, I have had to go to my local representative for the House of Representatives, and one time I had to go to one of my senators. I live in a state that has millions upon millions of people, right? And
Right.
the representative took time to listen to my problem, right? His staff, and they solved the issue. Took about 3 months, 4 months, and it was solved. The thing with the senator I had to contact took about 6 or 7 months, but both those issues were resolved to my satisfaction, right? And if they weren't, then I could have gone to the other senator. I could have gone to a state representative. There's a lot of other individuals, right? But if you only have 174 members of the TheA&P, and they're bought and paid for by somebody, because I don't know why you wouldn't represent your constituency that elected you to solve the issue that's in your district. Like we trusted you to do a thing. And this is what you do with my trust?
Exactly.
That's not what you do with someone's trust. If you say you're going to do a thing, you fucking do the thing. If I tell you I'm going to be here tomorrow, Patrick, at 10 o'clock in the morning, if I'm not there, I'm going to call you. And I'm going to say, hey, I can't make it because my car blew up. Or, hey, got a problem with a kid. I'm going to be about 15 minutes late. Or I have an emergent situation that obviates my ability for me to go to your place for us to do the thing. But you will know why, right? So either they need to do the thing. Yeah, they need to do the thing, or they need to say, I'm not doing it for this reason.
Yeah. And it kind of circles back to the point is, if this was a local thug who'd turn around and did this same crime, I would like to see what kind of response would have been put into place from the same TD. I can guarantee it would be a differently worded statement.
Oh, for sure.
Nearly guarantee it.
Yeah. 1,000%. Yeah, they would not accept that behavior. I don't know why people in Irish society are held to different standards like that.
I think the funny thing is, I see it, as you say, you see it in the United States where if X does a crime, it's delayed, and if Y does a crime, it's not. It comes back that us in Western countries will bend over backwards not to look racist in any way, to the point where we sometimes forget the real victims of our own.
Well, we sacrifice the weak on the altar of multiculturalism, and that's not good. Dude, our children are being killed. Our society is being destroyed from the inside. It seems pretty obvious from where I'm sitting.
Yeah.
TDs don't represent your interests. They just don't.
No, I was actually quite surprised because they happened the same constituency as Mary Lou McDonald as well. Her statement was the usual talking points: condemn the crime, blah blah blah. The usual.
Right.
Oh, this crime is bad, but it's still like she's the leader of the opposition, Mary Lou. She's the leader of the opposition parties now. She should be standing up and demanding more police, demanding solving the homeless issue, demanding to deal with the iPass issue. But as you say, it's just fallen so silent on both sides of the island, TheA&P.
Wow.
Just
Feels like we're functionally in
yeah.
a fallen state in the G7 countries. All right, Patrick.
It does feel
Anything
like
else
that
for the
sometimes.
crowd before we go?
No, I think actually as I say, I thought you would enjoy that video.
Oh, I really
As I said,
appreciate that.
he seems like, yeah, he seems like he's a very straight shooting
Oh, very,
man.
very
You know what I
forward.
mean?
Here's the deal. Here's what's going down. Yeah, I like him. I like him.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
all right. That's going to be
We
it for
definitely
the
may
A&P
cover
today.
more of him in the
Thank
future.
you. Oh, for sure. For sure. Thank you
very
so
much.
much for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and all the things, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.